Welcome to episode 254 of the Whatnauts review show, where every week we pick a story and we talk about it. This could be a movie, TV show, anime, manga, comic book, audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, and then we come back here and we talk about it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson, and I am joined, as always, by Kyle Springer.
Good morning. It's Fast 10 weekend. Fast and the Furious is out this weekend. We've seen the most fast-paced movie there is. And a bit on this podcast, we're about to talk about the slowest movie there is.
The timing is intentional. I'm very happy we were able to put this together.
Indeed. Melissa, how was your weekend? And besides, I know we both went to go see Fast 10.
It's been good. It's been productive. I cleaned a bunch of stuff, cleaned out my closet. I bought a fan. I've never bought a fan as an adult. Fans are $70.
One of those like standing tower ones?
Yes,
it like a ring
one of them.
fan? Oh,
it's a tower.
Gotcha,
$70 for a very nice model. Why didn't I do this earlier?
There you go. So sometimes you just need to upgrade your stuff or like buy something that's like, I think an adult would own that.
Exactly.
And then you just get one,
This
right?
is what I've learned. If there's a thing I remember my dad bought me once, I should try Googling it, because maybe now I can afford it by myself. Maybe it doesn't cost like infinite dad money.
Oh, man. Well, Melissa, would you be interested in $2,000 to go on a dangerous mission?
No.
No?
I would not.
I think I watched a YouTube video that said the $2,000 that they are working for in the movie that we're about to talk about is worth like $20,000 today. Ish, like roughly. So it's quite a bit of money. My weekend was good. I have not done too much yet. I just got caught up with Yellow Jackets and stuff like that, and we got the finale next week of season 2. I'm super excited about that. But yeah, that's kind of been my weekend. It's kind of been it. So I say we start jumping into The Wages of Fear.
Yes. The movie we're talking about today is the 1953 French movie, The Wages of Fear. This was directed by Henri Georges Clouzot. And the movie is actually in several different languages, which I thought was cool. It is in French, Spanish, English, German, Italian, and Russian.
Yeah, all sorts of stuff. Yeah, so you when you pitched this last week, I picked this one vaguely thinking it was a certain movie. It was not the one I was thinking about, and that's okay. I don't know the name of the movie that I was thinking about, but it was one of those ones that I've seen like on YouTube videos or heard mentioned in a podcast, and I just had this like vague image of a certain scene that I've heard described a number of times. And when you started to pitch this, it started to ring a bell being like, I think this is that movie. So that's why I picked it, to be honest. Not the movie that I was thinking about, but I have also heard imagining? This one. So there's some movie, and if you're listening to this, you might know what I'm talking about and just be like, you idiot, it's this movie. Something about like cars, or like two cars trying to cross a bridge, like this like rickety like rope bridge. I feel like it may have been one of the inspirations for like Indiana Jones or something like that.
Okay.
But when you describe like two cars like going real slow because they have nitroglycerin in the back, I was like, that I think this is it. I think they come to a bridge that it like, but that was not
okay.
It.
When you picture this movie, is it in black and white or color?
Black and white, I think.
just based on the title, is it Bridge over the River Kwai?
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, that was my
'Cause
guess.
that was like a movie that my dad had.
Big Dad movie.
Yeah. I did not that rules it out. But
Right.
I guess, but yeah,
Because everything else.
I don't know why, like, that idea of a scene has stuck with me. That they're like fighting for position to see who gets to go on this like single lane bridge first, in hopes that they can be the ones to make it across. But I don't know.
This movie was remade by William Friedkin in 1977, but I imagine that one was in color. That also feels very Werner Herzog. When I was watching this movie, it made me think of Fitzcarraldo and Aguirre, The Wrath of God, but again, color pictures.
Who knows? Who knows? So I picked this thinking it was one thing. It was not, but this is also a thing that I have heard described, or I think I'd seen the ending shot of this in like a film class that I took in college. Not that we really studied it, but it just like it was one. I've seen that before. I've seen that picture. I've seen that one scene. So it was familiar to me. And yeah, I enjoyed this film quite a bit. In different ways too. Like, it was one that I kind of had to wrestle with a little bit and be like, why do I enjoy this part of the movie? Or like, why do I enjoy that part in comparison to the other bits and stuff like that? But yeah, I walked away being like, this was an interesting movie to say the least. Yeah. So,
I'm happy we watched this one. I understand why it has been talked about. Why now, 70 years later, people still bring it up. It is uniquely thrilling. You can see how it has influenced things to come. Yeah, a valuable piece of cinema history. I'm happy we did this. I think this is the oldest movie we've ever watched on the review show. You and I. Because I know in the previous incarnation of the show, which you did with another co-host, you did watch Metropolis.
Yes, that was like 1923 or something like that, I think. Yeah.
But so far, 1953, the oldest movie we've covered. I imagine we will beat this. I've been wanting us to get some real old school noir up in here.
Ooh,
For right now, it holds the record.
There you go. Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, this is a much talked about film. Like we kind of alluded to already, it is about these four men who take a job to deliver nitroglycerin to this like oil fire that has happened. But the road to deliver this nitro is perilous. It is very, very, very dangerous, and the cars, the trucks that they are delivering it in don't have shocks. They don't it's like they need to go pretty slow to make sure they're not rocking the truck back and forth so they don't explode. And man, it just has these really, really long sequences of all sorts of tension, whether it be some kind of perilous detail about the road, or some like they need to make some hairpin turn and it's on this like cliffside, so they had they need to maneuver really carefully. But then also within each truck, the two drivers, just kind of the tension between the two of these drivers and their emotional states, their reasons behind doing this. Do they think this is worth it? Is their lives worth the $2,000 that they are said to get if they complete it? Yeah, it's an interesting film for sure, but man, it is tense.
And I didn't know going into this why they are making this journey outside of the money, the titular wages of fear, but to learn that the nitroglycerin is needed to cause an explosion that will blow out the oil fire. they say, like, we've tried everything else. This is going to work like just blowing out a candle on a grand scale. That's what we need it for.
Yeah.
And so to learn that there is a real purpose behind what they're doing, like this could cause severe damage to the landscape, to more human lives. People have already died doing this. There is some level also of moral weight to what they are doing. It isn't just the paycheck.
Yeah. I will say that this also, in a way, felt like an episode of The Twilight Zone to me.
Okay, yeah.
Because, it is this harrowing experience for all of the characters. But like you said, there's lessons in morality in this. It's kind of an allegory for capitalism and colonialism and the products of that and what that does to small towns, to human lives, how it can manipulate them, how people are sometimes stuck and in a position to, they just kind of have to be a part of that, and they can't get out, right? Or they don't know how, or they only see one option, right? So it has some interesting themes and things to say on that to me it felt like this kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't idea that I think would fit really well in a Twilight Zone episode. But yeah, I enjoyed this a lot. I will say off the top, if you have not watched this yet and you're thinking about it, this being an older film, there is some racist comments made quite often. There is a very short scene that has some violence against animals that you might want to be aware of. Thankfully, it's nothing too gruesome, and it moves on very fast. But just know that stuff is in there. But
I'll also say it's got a slower pace at the beginning. I mean, the whole movie is slow, but it takes them like an hour to get into the cars. There is a lot of setup and a lot of character development that happens before the main inciting incident for the plot.
Yeah. When you pitched these movies last week, you pitched it with the idea of, here's 3 very sweaty movies.
Yes.
Where everyone is just
3 hot movies.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. Just sticky.
And the opening hour or so of this film, is just, they are sweating, standing still, just sitting there with nothing to do. And it will read as very slow, especially to a modern audience. So that might turn some people off too, but I think it is worth sticking out and watching this, because I definitely had a good time watching this one. So let's see, we've already done the plot on this. Is there any other thing that you kind of wanted to highlight about this spoiler free before going in?
There's some cool shots in it. The cinematography is, I mean, I don't know a lot about cinematography history. I've been learning a little bit more about silent films, and there's a shot in Wings, the first ever Oscar-winning film, that like blows my mind. So people have been doing really cool stuff with a camera for 100+ years, but there's neat stuff in here. I really like some of the framing and some of the shots. Yes,
absolutely. I just at a quick glance on their Wikipedia page, I saw that they make a reference to Dunkirk, and that movie was very influenced by Wages of Fear.
I'm gonna have to watch Dunkirk again.
Little fun fact, because Dunkirk was also good too. Cool. Well, we will take a quick break for housekeeping, and when we come back, we will get into spoilers and start talking a little more in depth about the Wages of Fear. So we will be right back. Here at the Whatnauts, we make multiple different shows, and a lot of hard work goes into making them, so we would love it if you check them all out. If you enjoy our shows, patreon.com/the Whatnauts is the best place to show your support. For just $1 a month, you can get early access to episodes, and at our $3 tier, a Patreon exclusive podcast, The Pilots Club. You can even get a shout out and thank you on most of our shows at the $5 tier.
I could jump right
and if
into
you're
it.
one of our patrons already, thank you so much.
Is that okay with you?
It means the world to us. You can find out more information on our website,
Sure, yeah.
whatnauts.com, as well as your favorite podcasting platform of choice.
Sure.
When you type in the Whatnauts, all of our shows will pop up right there. Just don't forget to give us a nice rating and review if you like the shows. You can also find us on YouTube and Twitch for video versions of the shows, trailer reactions, and live streams. And lastly, we have merch. If you want to grab yourself a shirt or a hoodie or a mug or something else, head over to thewhatnauts.com/store to pick up some merch today. All right, we are back. Once again, a big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. We love you a lot. We appreciate you.
Thank
it means
you.
A ton. For those patrons at the $3 tier or above, you get access to the Pilots Club. And this month on the Pilots Club, we got to talk about Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur. It's going to be I love that show a lot. It was a blast talking about the pilot episode of that. But we've gotten some good Marvel shows, some good Marvel cartoons here on the review show this month, because we also recently talked about the Spectacular Spider-Man right here on the review show. So if you want some good Marvel cartoons to check out, those would be two of them. Over on the Reactor Core, Melissa, you and I are keeping up with our reactions to the Yellow Jackets Season 2. Right after this, we are recording our reaction review thing to two of the latest episodes on that. And like I said, we have the finale next week. I'm super excited. Lots to talk about there. We also have a spoiler cast for Guardians of the Galaxy 3. And then over on the Captain's Log, this past week, we talked about some of the Eisner nominees for comics and some standouts for that. I decided that I will make a bit about Beetlejuice 2, and I will drive it into the ground until it's not funny anymore. Anytime there is Beetlejuice 2 news, I am talking about it on that show. We will be the leading Beetlejuice 2 podcast, I promise you. We had some Marvel news. We watched the trailer for Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning. All sorts of good stuff. We're up to some fun stuff here at the Whatnot, so go check all of that out. But yeah, that's about it for housekeeping. So I say we get into spoilers. Bam, there we go. The Wages of Fear. Melissa, I think right off the bat, I want to talk about like that first half of the film, the slower part where they haven't even taken the job yet. Because that was an interesting one for me. I was not expecting that, and I was kind of expecting it to get into this drive a little bit sooner.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on this first half?
I wish I had a little bit more context for how all of the characters ended up in this little town. Because we're in, I don't think it specifies where, but I think we're in South America.
It's this little fictional South America town, yeah.
Yeah, but we don't have a concept of where in the continent it is, what country it might be in. But we're in the South American town with an American oil company, and it's all these European characters we are following. 2 characters from France, 1 from Italy, and 1 from Germany, which is quite a ways away. And they've all wound up here and gotten stuck there. And I wanted more information on specifically how that happened. Like, I know there is some promise of job prospects here with this big American oil company, but how they all wind up here from from Europe? Were they already in the continent? Were they already looking for jobs in the oil industry? Have they been around the area? Uh, I wanted more of that. I had trouble understanding why we are starting where we are starting.
Yeah, it's interesting because it is so multicultural in the town
Mm.
that they're in. And yeah, like I'd be interested to know a little bit more about like why is it so diverse there? Um, which I think I was not expecting, right? When you pitch this as a a
Yeah.
French film, I I didn't know if this was going to be taking place in France somewhere or
Mhm.
not, or somewhere, right? Like I just didn't know. But because it is this fictional town that's really in the middle of nowhere. That's kind of one of the things that we know about this town. Like there is nothing else around it. That's partly why they can't get out of the town,
Mhm.
because it's so far away. It's so expensive to take the
Yeah.
train to wherever else, and they're
Well,
working for
there
pennies,
is no
and they can't really get out.
train. I got the impression that the roads around there aren't in great condition. It's difficult to get a car that isn't like a vehicle assigned to you by the oil company for work
Right, yeah.
purposes. There's a little airstrip, but the fare is so expensive. It like traps a lot of people there. Like they have to work so hard to get the money to fly out of there. Which if it's such a trap, how did you get there in the first place? It seems like you've got one chance. Maybe you work for the oil company, and that's the only thing that would bring you to this town and the only thing that would get you out of the town.
Right. It's the promise of riches. It's also I think you can look at it as like a last ditch effort, because even some of the characters, even though they appear to be higher class or richer, they are also there because they need the money, right? Like it really feels like they are in some type of way to be just like, like I need some money fast. And but I think that's what's interesting to me is because it's so out in the middle of nowhere. It's so multicultural. It is so like you just get stuck there. That also helps feed into my like Twilight Zone read of this of just like, this is some like limbo like space.
Yes.
Are they already in hell? Are they is it something? It feels like a fable or some kind of like here's a parable about this strange town that people get stuck in. Why might they get stuck there? There's this one corporation that has taken over, and it's done,
there is something about the circumstances that are so dire, it does feel almost eerie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like there should be something else going on here. It's a very black and white situation they're in. Like it's on or off, it's this or it isn't.
Yeah. But yeah, I at first started really not liking this first half. Like especially when you're hit like pretty quickly with the very blatant racist stuff in the one scene where they're throwing the rocks at the dog. I was just like, oh god. Okay, it's an older movie, so I know that stuff. Let's see, let's work past it. But even then, I was just like, when are they gonna get to what I thought this movie was about?
Yeah, like this is what we came here for. Get in the truck, drive real slow.
Right. But I think as it went on, it started to charm me. It like I ended up kind of liking it, and to be honest, I think I would have been equally as interested in a movie that was just that, like just a look at this like slice of life, middle of nowhere town and the things that happen in this town. And I it just felt like, why are these people here? What happened to like that was an interesting enough story to me to be like, why are they all mixing here in this town? but I think at the end of the day, when you start to then put this in juxtaposition with the second half of this film, I think that the first half works to make you suffer with these characters, right? You get to sit with them and sweat with them and do nothing with them, and that's kind of the desperation that they're in. They want something. They want anything that will get things moving. And so, yeah, when there is this offer of like, hey, there's been this fire, there's been this explosion, and we need to send nitro up there. Like half of the town's men just jump at the chance to be like, yes, I will take this. And it like that I think that slow nothing has happened in town, I think just really paints a picture of desperation and why they would jump at that chance to, and it made me just be like, oh, all right, yeah, cool, yeah, no, this makes sense. I've suffered with them. I feel their pain. Like I've been stuck in that town too, right?
Yeah.
So here we go. Let's go on the dangerous mission.
I do like the scenes in the bar. I think the night before they leave on this mission, maybe, where Luigi comes in spending what little money
Who knew
he has.
That this was the original Mario that we forgot about, right? There's a Mario in there, there's a Luigi in there.
Yes, this is the Luigi you've been looking for. You've been tricked with false Luigis so far this year. Here's a true Luigi for you.
Yeah.
There's a scene where he goes to the doctor, which happens very abruptly. I don't think we get any. It just happens. Like there's no lead up to, oh, I've been feeling unwell. I keep coughing. I'm going to the doctor. We just see him
like making bread and he's coughing like in the kitchen, which is like, all right, dude, I don't know if I want to eat that, but also I guess that's just how it was back then.
Right. If there's just flour flying around, I think I could imagine like, oh, I'm coughing because like flour got in my throat. Like I really didn't think about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
He goes to the doctor.
Cement.
He's worked with cement before. And the doctor's like, there's cement dust in your lungs. You're not going to live very long. So he's sort of having himself one last night on the town. And he goes to this bar. And he wants to buy champagne for everybody, which surprised me that this bar even had champagne available. Like things seem very small around here. I thought champagne would have been out of the entire city's limits for things it could have. But he orders the champagne and he like turns on the radio. He starts dancing with Linda, I think is her name, Mario's girlfriend. Or at least the lady who he keeps going on dates with and then ignores. Not a great relationship there. But they start like dancing around, and then is it Mario? Somebody like just rips the cord out of the back of the radio. And so then Luigi and everybody else in the crowd just starts singing that song like really loudly, really aggressively. And it's a really repetitive song, like the same couple phrases over and over again. That's a cool scene.
On the wrong page.
Just like you take away our radio, we become the radio.
I think it was Joe. He's the other French guy, because there was a scene like the day before where they're playing the radio and he asks to turn it off because he's like, I don't like music. And then someone else who's sitting at the bar is just like, well, I do. Bam. And he turns it back on. And so, that next night when they do start up the music again, he's just like, all right, that's it. I'm just going to rip the cord out. And then everyone is just pissed off and is just like, what the fuck, dude? Like, come on. And so, they all start singing and dancing and stuff like that. And he's just like, all right, whatever. I give up. Which I like is an interest, because like that is another reason why I was interested in, like, I think I could have watched a whole movie about just this nothing happening town, right? because like the tension that is in there between the groups of people that are in there, the idea that the guy that owns the little restaurant bar saloon thing also does not like some of the customers, but they're the only customers in the town, so he kind of has to invite them back every single night. Like there's just this tension that builds up between them anyways. And so like that was interesting to see, and yet they are also all just dancing together and singing together. And there's that one scene of the dude playing the guitar and other like people just sitting there around him listening. Like they just kind of don't have anything to do, so they have to keep coming back. Which, yeah, again, I think can fit into the themes of the like colonialization of the town, the capitalism stuff that's happening there in the town, that they're just stuck and they just have to keep coming back to whatever that oil company gives them. And that's it.
There's a supporting character, Bernardo, who is this younger guy. Again, we don't know why he is in the situation he is in. We don't have a real origin story for anybody and their setting and their relationship to the town. But he's a younger guy. He's trying to get out, and he has an American visa that's going to expire in like a month. And he's like, I have such good opportunities waiting for me as soon as I get to America. I just have no way to get there. And he's dreaming about like, what if I can, there's like the one plane that goes in and out of town. He's like, what if I can sneak in there? What if I can convince somebody, let me just lay down here with the cargo? Like he tries out for the driving test to get one of these jobs, and one of the other local guys like takes off his shirt and throws it in front of the car so it lands on the windshield, and he like panics and he stops, and the foreman is like, no, we can't have you doing that on the road. The nitroglycerin will not take it. You're disqualified. So his options are done.
Seems unfair, but the like guy doing the test is also not wrong, that like unexpected things will happen and will cause you to like, you need to remain level headed and just kind of keep going in this. So he's just like, nah,
and it seems
out.
like the test is at least partially fixed. Like I think he's already, because Joe came and talked to him. He's like old friends with Joe, and Joe's like, you bring me and my new buddy Mario, we are two of your drivers. And I don't think he assigns like, oh, and bring Luigi and bring Bimba in too. I don't think they even know Bimba. But like it's sort of fixed that Mario's going to get in, and Joe thinks he's going to get in until his friend hires somebody else and is like, you're not the man you used to be. You're getting up there. I don't trust your reflexes anymore. I think you're too old to do this.
Which is really funny because the guy they hired instead of him looks a lot physically older than him.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like,
but maybe he's
an old guy. Like what do you...
Right. but who knows? Maybe like he's got more wrinkles, but his reflexes are sharper. It's all about like, how do you drive? And he looks at Joe and he's like, I don't think you can do this. And that is this weight that is over the driving sequences in the second half of the film, that it's not anything specific. It's not a mistake. It's just his senses may be dulled. That's it. That's what's going to cause some giant explosion, that Joe is just not capable of driving the way that the car needs to be driven.
I don't remember if they said it explicitly, but I'm assuming he fought in the war previously. And because there's one moment that he's like, you don't know what I've been through. And so I just kind of assumed that was like stuff that happened in the war. But I'm wondering if, because Joe knew, what was his name? O'Brien, the guy that was setting up the oil stuff. It was like Bill O'Brien or something.
Yes, that's it.
Like that. I'm wondering if they knew each other in the war, and that there is this sense of like, dude, I I know what you've been through, not like a sympathy move, but also like I know the toll it's taken on
Yes.
you, and I don't know if you're capable of
Yeah.
this stuff there.
I
But
don't
yeah, you're
think
right.
you've
It like
got the nerve for it anymore. Yeah.
looms over
Yeah.
his
But
whole
this
situation.
but Bernardo, after he fails out of the driving test, he doesn't feel like he has any more options. So he writes his mom a letter that says, "Dear Mom, I've found work. I'm doing okay. It might be a long time before you hear from me again. I'm busy working." And he gives the letter to Linda and asks her to mail it. And later that night, Linda's worried about Mario, so she goes out to like pray in the garden, and then she sees Bernardo hanging from the tree. It's very haunting.
Yeah, yeah, um, yeah. It's an interesting scene. It is kind of what starts off the journey. This like picture of death
Yeah.
of just like even someone who didn't make it on the actual job is already starting to like feel
Yeah.
this fear and this sense of dread that there's just nothing in life for me. Like the feel like I don't want to say well, let me think. I think for a more modern audience, maybe the film isn't so nihilistic. Like it's not so like there is a sense of dread on this film and this weight on it, like you alluded to, but I don't think it's so bad that you're like, man, this film is just like everyone is doomed, right?
Mm.
But I wonder if it maybe would have played like that for the audience at the time
Maybe,
of
yeah.
just like, man, like this is bleak, like
Mm-hmm.
this is just ugh. Um, but yeah, that is basically the thing that like starts out the journey, and
Mm.
because that well, it's that kid that takes his life, and then they never say exactly what happened to that other old
Yes.
man, but it's
Yeah.
implied that Joe kills him.
Right. Killed him, knocked him out. We don't
Something,
know.
yeah.
All we know is he doesn't show up for like the 3 a.m. call time to get ready to get on the trucks.
Yeah.
There's another townsperson who I forget his accent. He might have been American, but he's not a local. This guy had real Twilight Zone vibes, and that he is the guy loudly decrying the theme of the movie, where he's talking about how he's like, all the people are. So when the oil company realizes we've got this oil fire, we need to get the nitroglycerin there to cause an explosion. We can't transport that by plane. We have to send drivers. They send out these cars with megaphones driving around the town like, men needed for dangerous job, pays very well. Come here and learn about it. And he goes and he learns. He's part of this big like meeting. And he stands up. He's like, I'm not doing this, because once you get that kind of fear in you, it never goes away. It affects everything that happens to you for the rest of your life. He's like, that fear is indelible. He's like, I'm not catching that fear. I turn my back on it completely. I'll find another way to earn a wage here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that very much is the like Twilight Zone guy who's just like, I see what's happening here, I'm getting out.
Yeah,
like, this is not good. But they have the like early morning call time to get in the cars, and yeah, the one dude doesn't show up, so Joe gets to go on the ride here, which was also kind of planned. Like I feel like O'Brien, without saying as much, was just like, well, hey, if one of these guys decides to not show up, I guess you would be my backup. So he's just like, I got you. But what was really funny to me is that they have this really early call time, because if they can make the trip at a consistent pace, they won't really have to deal with the midday sun and the heat that comes with that. And even just the heat might explode the nitro.
Exactly.
Which of course, like they end up driving slower at certain bits. They stop, they take breaks. There's a sign on
Mm.
the car that says no smoking within 50 feet, yet they're all still smoking like right there within it. Like they go much slower than I think they like theoretically planned. And so most of the drive is like in the midday sun, but it's not mentioned
Yeah.
again as like, hey, the heat can also be a problem. Like, do we need to cover it somehow just to
Mm.
get some shade or something? But
I
I just thought,
think
I was like, they just said not to be in the sun, and here they are in the sun all day.
Well, I think what Bill O'Brien said is that the sun won't really affect it unless you stop for too long. And they do take little breaks, but it seems like it's, like 20 minutes maximum. They send the two trucks out. They sent out Mario and Joe first. And then a
Mhm.
half hour later, they send out Luigi and Bimba to stagger them as a failsafe. Like if one of you blows up, you're far enough away that the other one should still be safe. And then they're Joe is the first driver and he's going kind of slow and he stops and he feels sick. And then they realize, oh, the other truck's coming up behind us. Joe still needs to rest. You guys go ahead. And then we sit here and we wait so that then we are a half an hour behind you. And they're waiting in this really beautiful, like kind of eerie forest of all these real narrow, close together trees. I don't know what trees those are, but it's a real interesting
Mhm.
backdrop.
Yeah. Um, yeah, and so I think it is a mix of the environment, the road that they're on, as well as just all the conditions of these men that
Mm-hmm.
start to bring in the tension for all of the stuff. Yeah, because they are sitting there on that first break and they're like, hey, we need to get going here so we can stay ahead, and then they like that second car shows up behind them and they're just like, well, I guess we need to rethink the strategy here, and send these guys ahead and stuff like that. And down, like I was thinking there would be a little bit more of that, of like,
Mm.
we know the road ahead is dangerous. What if we take a break to send the other car in first to see
Oh,
what like I was thinking there was
yeah.
gonna be a little bit more of like a rivalry between
Yeah.
the two cars to be
I
like,
think that
who's gonna go on the road first.
I think the description, the like little Google sidebar blurb I read to you last week did indicate there's going to be more of a rivalry than there
Mm,
was. Because it's not a contest. It's not like the first truck who gets here gets a bonus or anything like that.
right.
Or if the other truck explodes, you get their money. That is what ends up happening. When Joe dies, Mario does get Joe's wages also, but that's not part of the stakes at the beginning of this trip.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I was kind of expecting some of that, this like manipulative, just like, well, we'll take a break right here and let them go up here because we saw that there was this rickety old like the hairpin turn that they need to back up onto some wooden thing here. Let's have them go first and let's see. Um, but the first like real obstacle that they come along is this stretch of road that, from what I understood, it was bumpy. It was like
Yes.
like I guess like in modern day times when you start to go off the side of the road,
Yeah.
how they have the grooves in it to like
Yes.
shake the car and wake you up. Um,
Yeah. They call that part of the road the washboard. And they're like, you
yeah.
have to go really there's this nice math to it where they're like, we either go so fast that we just fly over all the bumps, or
Yep.
we have to go like 6 miles an hour. We
Yeah,
can't
so
do
you
in
can
between.
really slowly just go over
Yeah.
all of this. And once again, they don't have shocks. So it's not
Yes.
like each option is still dangerous. But as the first group goes across, and they are taking the slow approach. And the second car, which started to wait and give them some time, decided to take the fast approach. And so they are like almost at the end of this washboard thing. And that second car is just coming up like right on the end here to be like, are we going to hit them? Like, we can't swerve off the road here.
Yes.
We can't slow down, but also like slowing down is the same as hitting them. There's just this like there's just nothing we can do here. Man, and they just barely make it out of that, and everything is okay.
Harrowing.
But that it is tense. It is harrowing indeed.
And I think the next obstacle on the road, this might have been my favorite one, where they have to go up the mountain and it's got these really tight hairpin turns, and they get up there and they see that the turn is so tight that the oil company, I suppose, has been building this wooden platform over the edge of this cliff so that big trucks have got space to like back up and like make that turn smoothly. Otherwise it's like way too sharp for a truck of that size. So I think it's Luigi and Bemba who go over there first. And it's like, I think Luigi is the one backing Bemba up. Like, okay, drive a little farther. And then they hit like rotten wood planks. And there's like mud or something. His car is spinning. So Bemba takes like a log and he puts it under the tires. The tires got traction. It's got like actual friction to like rub against. And then it can drive up there. So they make it pretty narrowly, but there's like boards knocked out, and they take this like wooden, looks like a traffic obstacle, or when you're not supposed to drive down a cul-de-sac or something.
They just
one of
get
those things.
Some of those sticks to like warn them, like, hey, watch out for this stuff.
Hey, look at this. Yeah, this area is in danger. And then they also take a heavier piece of machinery. I don't know what it was, but they put that back on the wooden platform to indicate, okay, so that part with the big hole and like the barrier over it, that's dangerous. If you're smart and you really look at this heavier thing, you'll realize, oh, that part is good. We can drive over that part of the platform because that heavy thing is there. Like, I like that thinking. Like, there's no way for them to get a message to each other except for we have to stop and wait half an hour for them to get here. We have to give them some other sort of symbol and hope that they just puzzle it out and realize what it is they're supposed to do.
Right, yeah.
When Mario is driving over that platform and he backs over so far, and you don't realize how far he's backed over until there's like a shot from beneath where it's like his back tires are just hitting the edge of that platform, and like the bed of the truck is like hanging
like
over it. That's Wile E. Coyote nonsense. Like that was such a striking visual. And he goes back so far that you think he's knocked Luigi off. And Luigi, not Luigi. Joe.
Yeah.
You want to, it's natural that the brain wants to put a Mario and a Luigi together. But you think he has knocked over Joe, and Joe has like fallen down into this ravine. So Mario like gets out of the car and he scrambles down there. Yeah, he think he has just killed Joe. Yeah. And then you see the shot like looking up at the cliff face where you see like Joe has chickened out. He is like climbing up, like, I am not getting back in the car. I am not helping you do this. And that was one of the shots that made me think about the legacy of this film, because looking up at this little cowardly guy like scrambling up around these rocks really reminded me of seeing Gollum climb around the mountains in the second and third Lord of the Rings movies.
So, a couple things with this whole thing. First of all, I get why that wood plank was there, all that stuff. It makes sense for the like fiction of the story, right? All that good stuff. I feel like in real life that turn was easy enough for them to go on. Like, I think the camera angles like tried to hide the fact that they probably could have made that turn just fine.
I did briefly question, well, have you guys tried to take the turn? Do you want to
Like,
try and then back over
'cause
this wooden platform?
they can make like half of the turn, and then they
Yes.
have to back up onto the wood plank
Mm.
and then go forward to make it back up that ramp. And
Mm.
like I understand that the road is so narrow and there is a cliff on that opposite side, like on that turn, that they do need to take it slow. It
Mm.
does need to be this kind of like back up and go forward and back up, but they back up so far that it seems like you're
Yeah.
backing up more than you would
Yeah.
ever need
Yeah.
to be on the platform here. So I just thought that was strange. It was like, I get that the film is trying to build tension, but also I like, it felt like the camera angles were just trying to like show it in a way that was like, but see, they have to go on this thing. And I was like, but do they really?
Maybe just in the location scouting, they couldn't find a road with the dimensions they needed, so they had to just sort of cheat it a little bit. I am
Something
really
like that. I
curious
don't
to
know.
watch the remake Sorcerer now and see how that adapts or improves on just, like the 24 years later. How does this movie feel different with
Sure,
its more modern resources?
But yeah, this is, I think, also when Joe's breakdown not starts, but truly manifests.
Mhm.
Like he is helping Luigi. It's Luigi, right? Or is it Mario? That's again.
It's
you
Mario.
Put a Mario and Luigi.
Mario's the
together.
one with the little neck scarf, and Luigi's the big jolly. It's funny because they've got opposite body types. Mario
they're
looks
flipped,
like a
right.
Luigi, and Luigi looks like a Mario.
Yeah. But Joe is helping him back the truck up, and I guess just because of the engine being that, or like where he's in a blind spot and he can't really see him, like they're not stopping the car. And so that's like, he gets almost pinned between this cart and the truck, and then the cart gets knocked off. And then, you don't see exactly what happens to him if he falls off. Does he like lay down and go underneath the truck and then jump down in the like rotted wood section? We don't know exactly how, but yeah, you see him. You eventually see him scurry up the mountain, and then he just kind of sits on the curb and is just kind of huddled up.
Yeah.
And I think at this point he is realizing, like, this guy that I'm with, this guy Mario is not listening to me, and he is so young and so gung-ho and so not carefree, but just like reckless, that he thinks my experience and my caution is not worth it. And I think because like he's not immediately completely out of it. Like, he is in that moment when he's sitting down, but then like when he gets back up to get in the truck, like Mario starts pulling off so that he has to like chase after him. Like, he's playing
very
with
immature
him. But yeah, he's just like, this is ridiculous. Like, this guy's gonna get us killed. And yeah, I think that is when his breakdown like starts to actually manifest, and just being like, I want to have like, we have nitroglycerin in the truck. We need to be cautious. Like, I don't know if this guy really got to fight in much of the war here, but I did. And the way we're going now, we're not gonna make it.
Okay. I was reading
That's
that
what I
maybe
read that as.
Maybe I was too much in Mario's perspective, since he's arguably the main character out of this ensemble. I was looking at it more as Joe's nerves are shot. He just can't handle this stuff. So he's like, I am not getting near the car again until we are on a safer patch of ground. I will climb up the mountain and I will meet you there. I am not helping you navigate this tricky turn. I can't handle that.
I don't think you're wrong. Yeah, I think that like his nerves are shot. He is overly cautious. If it was completely flipped and Joe was in charge, I think it would have been too slow. Like they probably would have been there for a lot longer. They would be taking more break. Like it wouldn't have gone like they like I almost wonder if they would have been needed. Like if the other car had gotten there, like and then they showed up, they would have been like, well, we already did the explosion. Right. And so it's just like, well, what was all of this worth? Like they need to go at a certain pace. And I think Mario knows that to get there, be useful, get the money, like do all of that stuff. And if we go too slow, what's the point?
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, there is this conflict between them.
And after this, we get, I think, one of my favorite things in this movie. We have spent the whole movie being so worried about every single bump and jostle, like anything could cause the nitroglycerin to blow up. And Luigi and Bemba are farther ahead on the road. It's a relatively peaceful stretch of road. They don't have to go that slow. And they're driving pretty comfortably. They're talking to each other. They're trying to get to know each other better. Bemba, like, has been through, he's German. He was, in World War II. It seems like the Nazis, like, killed his parents. He grew up, like, working in a salt mine. Like, he's very harrowed. And Luigi, even though he is facing death, his spirits are higher, maybe because he has less to lose, or maybe just because he sees the hardship on this man he has been paired with. And he's like, well, I got to do something to lighten the mood here. It's on me then. So they're chatting. So you see that. And then you cut back to Mario and Joe farther along down the road. They're like up on a hill coming down to where Luigi and Bemba are in this valley. And they're talking, and you see Joe like roll a cigarette. Like he's got a little cigarette paper that he's put tobacco in. And then all of a sudden it just blows away. And then there's this flash, and there's just these shots of the two of them looking surprised. And then you look out on the landscape, and Bimba and Luigi have exploded.
Yeah.
Just out of nowhere. No lead up, no clue. Looking at the previous scene, you're like, I don't know what could have caused that. But that's the thing. It's anything. That nitroglycerin is so sensitive. It could have been nothing at all. And boom, they are dead. With like no lead up and yeah. Right, exactly. No explanation and like no thing for the next truck to look out for. They can't see what it was and work backward and use that as a cautionary tale for what they should or should not do.
I do want to say before they explode, there is that rock that's in the road, the big giant boulder, and they have to explode.
Oh, yes, yes.
Which is also
that's a good scene.
I really liked that scene a lot, and that there was a bit in that scene because when they explode the rock and it explodes and all the like loose rocks from the mountain start to slide down, all that stuff. Joe is sitting there in the open like car door of his truck, just holding on so tight and scared because he's still in this like, I don't want to do anything if you guys don't want me. I'm just an old useless old man, right? So I'm just gonna sit here and be like, all right, we're all gonna die. They had left out that extra jug of nitro, and it's sitting on the side of the road right in front of Joe. He's staring at it, watching all of these rocks like fall down on it. So he's just expecting like to blow up, and it doesn't happen. There's that one bit where Luigi goes like, oh no, like we messed something up, like I'll go stop the fuse, and he can't get there in time. He gets knocked out from the explosion, and it's their smelly feet that wake him up. It's like, I can smell your feet. But
that was a great scene.
To skip ahead a little bit, I did not see them take that extra jug and put it back into the truck. From what I saw, I think they just kind of left it there. So I thought at the end when Mario had he had completed the mission and he's driving back and he's just happy, like, I made it. I got double the money than I expected. And he's like swerving back and forth, like, I don't need to worry about if there's sticks in the road. I was like, that canister is still there. I wonder if he misses it and hits it, and that's what explodes. And that's not exactly what happens. He goes off the edge and right, just has a car accident. But yeah, that was what I was like, that would have been brilliant. Like, if that thing was just left there and he just haphazardly just hits that, not realizing they never put that back in the truck, would have just been like, oh, that would have been great. But not what happened. Oh well. But yes.
Yes.
Luigi and Bimba explode. Rest in peace, Bimba, who I have to say it's really funny that the character is named Bimba, because that's what we call one of my cats, whose actual name is Simba. But he's an orange cat, so he has like one brain cell. And so he's just
is
he's
the
just
thing
kind
about
of a himbo.
orange cats, like, is the color of the cat indicative of the cat's intelligence?
Orange cat behavior is just kind of baffling from what I understand. And yeah,
I thought they just liked lasagna
and hate Mondays.
That's what they do, right?
Right, yeah. Yeah, so we call him Bimba because he's just kind of a himbo on top of that, right? So yeah, like that's
Handsome
our nickname
cat,
for him. Yeah. And so when I saw that there was someone in this movie named Bimba, I was like, oh, like, oh my god, there's someone in this movie. Like I texted my partner and I was like, he's real. He's a real life person. Yeah. And then he explodes.
You do feel bad for him.
Yeah.
You feel bad for Luigi. Yeah, what a way to go out. And that's a scene I had to rewind. I was so amazed by it, that you just see the tobacco, like the gust of wind just blows it off of the paper and you don't realize that's what it is because they are so far away from that other truck. And there's just the isolated shots of, there's just like one reaction shot of Joe and one reaction shot of Mario, just perfectly symmetrically framed. This almost like Wes Anderson framing of them sitting there dumbstruck and this like flash of light. And then you just see the explosion down in the valley.
Yeah. Man, I really liked that scene a lot because they eventually do get to the spot where it happened and the oil pipe is leaking out. They don't know if there's like a pothole in the road, like you said, if it was a stick or something that or they just got a flat tire or something. There's just no evidence except this like exploded pipe. Yeah, that's just leaking oil.
And I love that they can prepare for so many things. Like the road is mapped. People have driven on this road before. They know what it is, but there's stuff like the giant boulder that fell into the road in that quarry area. And it's like, well, the road around it, like the area around the road is too rough. We can't go over it. We have to just use some of the nitroglycerin we have and explode this giant boulder. Like that's our one option.
Right, like maybe they could have if they didn't have the nitro in it. Like they can just go up and around, but not with this.
Not now.
Yeah.
And then you get to something you're not thinking about with the explosion is it leaves this giant crater you're going to have to traverse, especially when there's a burst pipe that is just leaking oil and it's making this giant mud oil pit that's rising and rising. And at first they're like, okay, it's not that deep yet. We can do this. If we just go through right now before it gets deeper, we can traverse this. But it's so muddy and they get stuck. And like Joe has to climb out and just sort of like help pull the truck or help push it or something. And then he gets run over and he's like drowning in the mud. It's such a striking visual. Yeah. And then like when...
Go ahead.
Then when Mario's able to like get the truck out of the out of the hole. He goes back in, he pulls Joe out, and like Joe's lower leg is liquefied in a way that really amazed me for this time.
Yeah,
We've been
the
watching
effects
Yellow
were great
Jackets.
on that.
There's that shot in episode 2 in the plane crash where they pull out Coach, and Coach's leg has been, damaged by part, like it was trapped under part of the plane.
Ugh,
You pull
yeah.
out his leg, and his leg is just mutilated. It is barely solid. Like, that's one of the most memorable visuals from this modern show. So to go back to this movie from 1953 that's doing kind of the same thing, I was
Yeah.
really amazed.
Yeah. Yeah. This whole thing is wild because it's oil, so it's slick.
Yes.
And so like that is the thing is like once they go in, they cannot stop. They have to, if anything, speed up to like make sure that they can continue. But that is the thing, like they don't think it's too like so deep, but they also can't see inside it, so they don't know if there's like branches from trees which we had saw were all exploded like right there. And so that's what happens. They're clearing it out and they think they have it cleared, but then Joe, who again is also helping to like navigate, he's in the oil, like he's standing in it being like, all right, keep coming, like all that stuff, backs up onto another branch and trips and falls and can't clear it out fast enough. And he's like, he's yelling to stop, but Mario knows like I can't stop or we'll both be stuck here. And so it is just this like, I'm sorry, dude, but I have to keep going. And his leg just gets run over and mangled and all sorts of stuff. And when they pull him out, it is like I was trying to figure out how they did that back in the day, because like it's not like in Aliens where it's just like that head on the cart and you can imagine like he's inside the cart somehow, right? Like hidden back behind that, because like they pull him out and it's just this like pants leg attached to a boot, and so I don't know if his like leg was folded back and back behind that and they just shot it at the right angle. Like I don't know, but it looked incredible.
Dug a hole in the dirt, stick your leg in there, and then we've just got like a fabric stuffed leg to pin to
I don't know
knee.
Something, but that shot was incredible. Something I want to go back to is some of the cinematography stuff. So when they have to explode that boulder, this is the first time that they are, the only time that they are legitimately thinking like, well, what if we use the nitro in the truck to blow this up? And there is this idea of like, this is a bomb. Now we're essentially making a bomb to explode this rock, even though their trucks have essentially been a bomb this entire time, right? But there is this moment where they are waiting, they're siphoning out the nitro, they're filling up the rock, but there is the camera work in this scene was some of my favorite in the entire movie, because again, the characters just have to sit there and wait for the most part as they are making this stuff. It's Luigi that is like hammering in the rock with this pipe to like build this hole in it, and it is just this consistent like ding, 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 and you see a shot of I still have to like okay, he's tall, so it would be Luigi, but it's actually Mario in this movie. So Mario is heading there with his lighter and he's tapping it, just this ting, ting, and it makes this like clockwork sound, right? You see the picture of Joe heading there, just like hugging the car, or not tapping it, but like scratching at it. And it's just like these small things that people are doing with their hands to indicate their mood or to give this sense of like this ticking time bomb or how they feel about the situation, because him just playing with his lighter, again, not carefree, but there are signs on the truck that say, hey, no smoking within 50, and he's just sitting there like just playing with his lighter. Just not, it's like, dude, you're like, come on. So yeah, I loved those shots where it just got these close-ups of like what they're doing with their hands, or the way they look on their faces, like the expressions. That stuff I thought was fantastic. And then to just down the road have this completely different visual when Joe just gets completely submerged in the oil. And then again to go back to like the themes of like the oppressive nature of this oil company on the town, and the way it's ruining the town and their lives and ruining nature. Here is this man just stuck. He cannot escape this oil. Like he's given up. Like that is exactly what's happening to the people in the town. But here's a more literal, like this man is just covered in the stuff here. And just to see him, like it is, what was the one, which James Bond movie do they cover the person in oil?
That's Quantum of Solace.
Quantum of Solace almost kind of reminded me of that, where like they're just covered in that stuff. And I think with his leg just being mangled, him already like mentally just kind of have given up. This guy just kind of succumbs to his wounds here, and that's how Joe fights it. That's how Joe goes out, and just caught up in the oil of just man.
Like the oil and the mud. So it's both man versus industry and man versus nature.
Exactly.
There are two threats here working in tandem.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. But that was just like, I just loved the way it shot, all that stuff, the way it looked. It like there was probably a couple frames in there where he's trying to swim to the side, where it's just all oil and him, like right in there. And I was just like, that looked great. That looked awesome.
Like stuff that I think especially looks good in black and white. I don't know if it's literal true to life brown. I don't know if it's as striking as the black and white, where you have to imagine the exact color of everything.
Yeah, who knows? But then also I didn't understand exactly the logic of how Mario ended up getting the truck out. He somehow like put those pins in the ground ahead of the truck and then I think he spooled it up on the axle. So as the car the things continued to spin, it would spool up and pull the car forward.
That's what I think.
I don't know exactly how that worked, but it worked. He got out. And he was the only one to deliver the nitro at the end.
And he's talking to Joe. Joe's lying there on the bench seat, which, just to imagine how uncomfortable these cars are, not with the heat, not with the lack of shocks, just like, right, you didn't have ergonomic seats back then. It's just one flat straight plank, and that's where you sit on. Right. Like there's a lot of things that like nip at you from a modern time frame that are making it even more tense than it was if you actually saw it in 1953 and you're like, yep, those are cars. We don't make them other ways. But he's got like Joe up against one side, Joe with his head on his shoulder, and he's telling him like, we're going to get there. I'm going to get you help. And I think he gets there as fast as he can. But Joe just doesn't make it that long. He really tries.
He dies like right as they pull up.
That's
sucks.
Always the worst. Yeah. But he does get double the money. Not quadruple the money. I don't know where Bimba and Luigi's money would be going. Maybe you do only get paid if you deliver the nitroglycerin.
it was kind of one of the, like, I feel like it was one of those things, like, because you were able to deliver the body, like, we can return this to any like surviving family he may have or stuff. But like Bimba and Luigi are just kind of like, there's nothing they can really do. It's like, well, they exploded, right?
Right, and we have no clue if there is any next of kin for them.
Yeah.
I don't believe for
Yeah.
Bimba, Luigi, we have no idea. But yeah, we see back at the town that word has come through that Mario made it. Mario made it. He delivered the nitroglycerin. They were able to put out that oil fire, and he's on his way back home. And Linda is so excited. The rest of the townspeople are excited, and they turn on the radio, and there's some piece of classical music playing that I couldn't identify, but I knew I recognized. And they're dancing around, they're twirling, they're spinning, they're so happy. And this is playing as Mario. He's got the $4,000. He's driving back, winding around those like hairpin turns in the mountains. And the way it cuts between him, like, and the camera's like tilting as he's being jostled around in the car, but he's so happy because it's just regular car. Like, there's no nitroglycerin to worry about. He feels free.
He's just having a good time. It's like,
right, cuts between
downtown.
that and like the he cuts between that and the like almost like frantic, joyous dancing of the townspeople, both in these close-ups, both with these like tilting camera movements. And then he goes off the edge and like the camera tilts and spins.
Again, you and I have been watching Yellow Jackets. Season 2, and there's a moment in the penultimate episode of season 2 that is a lot like this. Like, there's it cuts between some of the characters just being real joyous and dancing and drinking and having fun, and then this real violent act here, which I did not think about that until now, but interesting stuff. Good stuff there. But yeah, he goes off the edge, has a gruesome car accident.
Oof.
And that last shot is just him dead. And it says Finn. That's it.
Finn.
Done. No explanation. We don't get to see the town get the news. It's just, that's it. They partied. He died. Abrupt. Man, I enjoyed this a lot. I had fun with this. Now, like, whenever I see a movie and it's just like hot out, there's nothing much to do, they're just sitting there. Like, I feel like I'm always gonna think back to The Wages of or when they're just sitting there, right? And there's just nothing to do. It's like, man. It just, I feel like the film was wet when they filmed this. It was just so sweaty and
damn
humid. The film itself just feels wet.
Wet
I don't know,
film.
but there you go. Cool. I don't know if I have much else to say on the film itself. So I say we jump into our bingo check-in here. We like to do review show bingo here on the show, a bunch of different movie tropes and entertainment tropes as we read and watch each thing week to week. Did we get a big puddle splash? I think we did. I don't remember specifically.
What I'm imagining is like Peter Parker down on his luck. Taxi drives by, splashes him with a big puddle. Like, the big puddle splash does not happen in a unnatural atmosphere. That's a big city action. We don't have that.
Well, because like they are in a town with like dirt roads, and so there's puddles that build up and stuff like that. Like, that's the thing. I don't remember if it was in this or something else I was watching recently. There's a big puddle splash on my mind.
I wouldn't count it, because even if a big puddle splashes, it doesn't have that
it's not
narrative
attention to
impetus
in the same
behind
way.
it, where it's meant to indicate this character has come so low, even like the
Right.
natural forces are against them. A puddle
Sure.
hits them.
Sure. Yeah.
My camera got blurry and I don't know how to fix it.
I think you're good. You're back to being
Okay.
fine here.
I feel like I'm normally more high resolution than this.
Let's see. I don't think I got anything here on this
What
bingo update.
do you think I don't think you have this, but I do. Do you think this would count for small timer in over their head? We put this in under the context of like small town detective now has to deal with like, oh, this is a serial killer when I normally deal with like those Johnson boys threw a brick at my window sort of thing. But when it's just like, yeah, I can drive. I need the money. Can I do this job? And then it's like, well, I'm dead.
Yes, I think that is the spirit of this movie, right? It is just these normal guys. They're construction workers, or yeah, they might be a little more rich, or they used to be a little more rich, but now they're just down on their luck, right? They like in this situation, they are out of their league here, right? I think that works. But yeah, I don't think I got any on mine this week. I'm still looking for like a treasure map, a diary entry. I didn't realize my own strength, a villain with a pet, stuff like that. So there you go. There you go. We're closing in. It's getting a little more difficult to fill out some of these squares unless it's with intention that we pitch some stuff. Okay, there you go. Let me bring this back to normal size. There we go. Melissa, let's do recommendations. For people who enjoyed this, what else might they enjoy?
So where I first heard about the Wages of Fear is from one of my favorite YouTube channels about movies. The channel is called Blame Society. It's the name of like the film production company, but the show is called Welcome to the Basement. It's been running for 12 years. And this host brings his friend into his basement. They're both huge film buffs. And he's like, every episode, they do it twice a month, I am going to show you a movie I've never seen before. It can be anything, good or bad, can fit any number of themes. Sometimes it's like we've never watched a movie from this year or from this country or in this subgenre or whatever. And you watch them watch the movies. It's part genuine smart film insights and part Mystery Science Theater 3000 while they like make jokes about it.
I gotcha.
Really wide-ranging amount of stuff. I love the show. They've mentioned it here. And so there's a movie I haven't seen personally, but they did an episode about it years ago. So I've seen the clips from it. They give you like a full summary of the movie beginning to end. And that's a movie by Werner Herzog from 1982 called Fitzcarraldo. I mentioned this earlier.
Yeah.
Opera-loving European named Brian Fitzgerald lives in a small Peruvian city. Better known as, his name is Brian Fitzgerald, but they call him Fitzcarraldo. This foreigner is obsessed with building an opera house in his town and decides to make his dream a reality. He needs to make a killing in the rubber business. In order to become a successful rubber baron, Fitzcarraldo hatches an elaborate plan that calls for a particularly impressive feat, bringing a massive boat over a mountain with the help of a band of natives. And it's a situation where they had to do this thing in real life to make it happen within the movie. We have to build a boat. We can't like ford the river with it or whatever. We have to like pick up the boat and carry it up and over a mountain to get back onto the river.
Wild.
It's the South American jungle. It's sticky. This man is driven by one singular passion, and he's not making money for money's sake. He's making money so that he can build an opera house there in the South American jungle, because that's where he happens to live, and that's what he loves. That is what he believes is man's highest art form. He's this one opera singer he idolizes, who he wants to bring there to his little city in Peru and like build the opera house that would bring him.
Interesting.
Huh.
I'm looking through some stuff. to go back to the Twilight Zone, there's the episode The
Yeah.
Midnight Sun, and in which the Earth falls out of orbit. It gets hotter and hotter in this heady. I don't know if this is the same one, but I think there's something like another episode very similar. This might be it, but like it's super hot all the time, and then I think they wake up, you learn it was all a dream, and they live in an Earth where it's freezing cold the entire time.
Yeah.
So it's like the exact opposite.
I know that
so
one.
yeah, if you want another like real sweaty like black and white thing, that would be one to check out. But I don't think that one has the same themes of like colonization and capitalism and the oppressive nature and just like the cycle that it spins up. I feel like Metropolis is also a good one to put, like you mentioned that at the start of the podcast, because that does have some of those themes in there. There's that big dreams sequence where he sees the people like working and like praying to the machine inside it thing. I don't know exactly, but yeah, man, this one's a tough one for me to come up with. Like, if you liked this, there's some other things.
There's a new show that is on Max. By the time this episode releases, the HBO will have been dropped. It is officially Max now.
Rest in peace,
There's a
HBO.
There's a show I heard about. I haven't watched yet, but it is an adult animated comedy series called Fired on Mars. And it's about this corporation on Mars, and if you work it there, you get it's like set in a not so distant future where it's not like there's aliens or anything. Earth just made a company that exists on Mars, and when you go to Mars, it's a one-way ticket. You can't come back. Like that. I don't know if there's not the technology to send you back. I haven't watched the thing yet, but this guy gets hired to work for this Mars company as a graphic designer. He leaves his whole world behind. He travels to Mars, and once he gets there, they've eliminated his position. So he no longer works for the only company on Mars, but he can't leave Mars.
Interesting. So he's just like stuck there.
Yes. Yeah. I'm looking at IMDb, and the summary says Jeff Cooper has to reinvent himself after being fired from his position in the space startup Mars.ly. With no chance to return to Earth, he has to find again meaning in a dangerous, alien, but familiar corporate landscape.
Interesting.
I might pitch this in the future. This sounds really interesting.
Here's one that I thought of that I haven't seen, but this is like one of the few things I know about the movie. Spike Lee's Do the Right Thing.
That was on my list of hot movies I considered pitching. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Because like that, I just know like it's super hot and everyone's just sitting there outside and they just, they get mad at each other. Things are happening left and right just because they have nothing else to do, which felt like the first half of this movie. Indeed. Yeah. I would say those are some good recommendations.
Mm-hmm.
I can't really think of anything else, but there you go.
Yeah.
Good old recommendations, which means it's my turn to do some pitches. So next week here on the podcast is our end of the month special. We are continuing our coverage on The Good Place. This is our We've done some like sitcom exchange episodes here on the show in the past, but kind of just by nature of this show, we haven't really done a sitcom on the show. So these end of the month specials that we do is kind of one of our chances to do that. And The Good Place not only happens to be a well-received and critically acclaimed show, but fits in like these seasons are shorter. They're not the like usual longer sitcom length.
Yeah, we don't have to watch 24 episodes a month for 7 straight months. Like it is the perfect length. It had a strong beginning. This isn't one of the sitcoms that people like, but they like starting in like season 3.
Yes, yeah. So we are continuing our coverage on that. We will be watching season 2 for this next week here on the show. So get ready for that. But I am ready to pitch the stuff for the week after that.
Go for it.
Yeah. We are also kicking off our like summer movie marathon, hot IMAX summer, as Melissa called it on one of our other podcasts. All the summer movies are about to start up. So I know we're going to be kind of busy with stuff and more spoiler casts over on the Reactor Core. So I wanted to pitch some movies. And one of my goals this year here on the show is to get a little bit more sword and sorcery stuff. We haven't really dipped into that genre much here on the show. We did our first toe test on that earlier this year. There might be a few things we could.
We read this 2-volume Red Sonja comic by Gail Simone, which I think was, even though we've just covered it the one time, I think that is very thoroughly sword and sorcery. Like I think just that one thing kind of has covered the bases for what to look for in this genre.
Yeah. That's I think that's why we ended up picking that at first, because of those like the mix. Because I think I pitched like a movie and a comic and something that like you're like, let's go with the comic. But that had a good variety of there's a little bit of fighting, a little bit of magic, a little bit of adventuring,
drinking, sex.
Plenty of that. Yeah. But I wanted to pitch some sword and sorcery movies this time. So pitch number 1 is actually one of the other ones that I pitched last time. This is the Conan the Barbarian movie and Conan the Destroyer. These are the 2 Arnold Schwarzenegger Conan movies. These are like what I think of when I think of the sword and sorcery genre. I have not seen these in their entirety, but these are movies my dad had on as a kid all the time. He loves these movies. I think we've even had one of the movies we've watched this year, I think, or something that I was watching this year quote these movies a lot, like what is best in life, right? To hear the lamentations of their women and something. Like I this is just like the quintessential sword and sorcery thing, at least in my mind, but I haven't seen them yet. So I think that is a good pitch for our pitch number 1 here. I would like to get them on the show at some point. They don't need to be this one, though, if you find one of these other 2 pitches a little more interesting. Because pitch number 2 is Beastmaster from 1982, a sword and sorcery.
Are all of these from the 80s? Is there a single one of these that was released in our lifetime?
No, all 3 of these are in the 80s. There is a more modern Conan remake, if you want that. There are some more modern stuff, but I feel like sword and sorcery hit it at least in like popular Hollywood hit its height in the 80s. With that, I could be completely wrong, but that's what
I don't think there have been new. I mean, people have returned to Conan and to Red Sonja, but I don't think there's new sword and sorcery material being created.
It also depends on how far you're willing to expand, like what fits in sword and sorcery. Because one of the things I pitched last time was Jason and the Argonauts, and this idea of like how like. Is like mythological gods and creatures, does that fit in? It probably can, but depends, because there have been more modern day like mythological movies, stuff like that. But yeah, pitch number 2 is the Beastmaster from 1982. Commercially, it kind of bombed. But I know that it had some success down the road as it kept playing on TV and stuff like that. But this is about a guy who can communicate with animals. He fights an evil lizard and his army to get revenge on him for killing his parents back in the day. I don't know anything really about this movie other than that in Community they have one of their Halloween specials and Chevy Chase dresses up as the Beastmaster.
Yeah.
And then
I imagine this is true of many
out,
things where you say
saved by Batman, and yeah, it's great.
I don't know what this is, but I saw them reference it once in Community.
Exactly.
Community specifically.
Yeah, right. So that's pitch number 2. And pitch number 3 is a little bit more of a sci-fi take on the sword and sorcery genre. This is the movie Krull. Krull from 1983. Yeah, it's a science fantasy swashbuckler film. Yeah, let me see. So that's listing the whole plot. Let me see if I can get a.
I can also Google it and read. Find what you need. I'm doing my own research over here.
Let's see here. A prince and a fellowship of companions set out to rescue his bride from a fortress of alien invaders who have arrived on their home planet. So yeah, I wanted to put this one in there just because it has a little bit more of that, like that sci-fi take on it, which I thought was interesting. Because I mean, you can have swords and sorcery, right, in a sci-fi setting too. That is possible. Not unlike some Star Wars stuff, but yeah, no, this is not like as sci-fi as Star Wars. But I thought that was an interesting thing. So there you go. Pitch number 1, Conan the Barbarian and Conan the Destroyer. Pitch number 2, The Beastmaster. And pitch number 3, Krull. I know the first Conan movie is available on Netflix. I think we'd have to rent a second one. The Beastmaster, I believe, was available on Amazon Prime for everyone to watch. And then Krull would be one we would have to rent. And I think that was available on Apple.
You could talk me into one Conan movie, but not 2.
Interesting. I mean, there are only 2. So like
my time on Earth is precious to me. I'm not committing myself to 2 when I don't know if I'm going to really be thrilled by number 1. No, not to disparage the movie. This is just like not my flavor of things.
That's
like
okay.
I said earlier,
you don't have to pick those ones.
When we read Sonia, I felt like that checked the box for me. I'm like, I'm good on this subgenre. I feel like I've sufficiently experienced it. And you're like, nope, we got to do it again. More.
I'm doing it 3 times this year, so this is my second time.
Why 3? What have we not done?
In the grand scheme of things, we've done 250 plus episodes, and we only have 1 sword and sword. Like you get 3. It is like a good, just like we've done a couple of them to help us understand the genre and the breadth of this.
Sometimes I feel like 3 of one thing in a year is a bit much for me. I would like them if they were a bit more spaced out, but I accept your
spreading
terms.
them out. The first one was in February, at the start of the year. The next one will be in late fall.
You and I experience time on Earth very differently, Kyle. This is overwhelming for me.
It's really not.
I decide what's overwhelming for me. You don't decide that.
Very true.
Out of these 3, I know the word Krull. I know the word glaive. I've never been. I think I knew a glaive was a weapon. But now that I Google it, I think this might be the first time I've ever properly seen a glaive. I feel like this hits the thing that I need to know about the most. Just in that,
Sure.
I have heard the words. They've never been properly contextualized for me. I feel like I ought to know them. So that, like, if I'm walking around a Comic-Con or something and somebody has made a glaive from scratch, I could talk to them about
cool glaive.
right? Chances are high that I will run into a glaive in my life. Not literally run into it, not be stabbed by it.
Yeah.
But I will see somebody like making a prop at a con or a Comic-Con or a Ren Fair or something, and I can point at it and say, cool glaive from the movie Krull, 1983.
Good stuff. Well, yeah, let's do Krull then. I mean, that seems to be the one you want to pick here. So yeah.
I will pick Krull. I like varying it up with some sci-fi flavor.
Hell yeah. That sounds good to
me. I like
me.
the idea of a fake planet more than just like we went to some rocks in California and it's just like rocks from long ago on Earth. I like the idea of not being on Earth.
Okay. Good stuff. Yeah. Yeah, that one seemed interesting to me just with the because that's the I don't know much about the sword and sorcery genre, so when you start to expand it and put a little more other genre influence on that, I like, what does that look like exactly? So yeah, cool. That'll be happening in 2 weeks. Krull. But yeah, I think that is about it for this week. Next week, as we said, season 2 of The Good Place. Get excited for that. But Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Wilkywit. That's WILKYWIT. And listen to my other podcast, Saturday Morning Obscurities.
There we go. You guys can find me at Yo Kyle Springer. And if you'd like to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are, of course, at the Whatnauts on Twitter. So please go like, share, and subscribe. You guys know the deal with all of that. If you're watching this on YouTube, we got a few more videos right over there for you all to check out. But yeah, this has been, 256? I didn't think of the Whatnauts review show. 54. Gotcha. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.